There are many things that go bump in the night. Ghosts and goblins and dreams and nightmares sweep in from every side of you every night. And some of these things that we see in the dark are real. Most of them are not. But one of the things that we like to, here at the Bigfoot community, like to believe is that Bigfoot is a strictly nocturnal creature. As to what exactly Bigfoot is, we really don't know. There's a lot of supposition and theory out there. But I can say from my studies that this creature that we today call Bigfoot and Sasquatch amongst other names has actually been around for thousands of years. It's been around almost since the beginning of mankind. There's always been stories of what in many years past has been called the hairy man of the woods. We look at a bunch of different things in the woods and we think that they're made by this creature, such as this stick structure here that I came across, and I can assure you that this is not made by Bigfoot. This stick structure is actually a man-made structure. Some of you may have seen it before and you know where it is, and you know I know for a fact that it's man-made. But we see a lot of these things, a lot of strange, weird things out there that we really can't explain. We'll look on our hikes as we go through the woods, like this video here. That's my famous Creepy Eyes video. Looking into this culvert. It's been around since the 1930s, underneath an abandoned railroad bed. It's what some people have been referred to as the Creepy Eyes. And it is kind of creepy if you think about it. It's also kind of dangerous because there's no telling what that could have been. Could have been a rabid coyote for all I know. I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot, but later on in this video, when I give you some reasonings behind why I'm looking in this area for clues, you'll understand why I believe it may possibly have been something like that. I'm not saying here definitely that it is. But we look through the history, and this is mostly what I'm going to talk about in this video today, is the history of Bigfoot and where Bigfoot's origins came from. Excuse me. Historically, many of these sightings have actually been attributed to other creatures, like this big bruiser here. This is actually a black bear that you're looking at now at the Maine Wildlife Park, located in Gray, Maine. It's a great place to visit. I got some really good footage of some of these animals. I was hoping to have seen one of them stand up on their hind legs so I could get a good video of a bear on its legs for doing comparisons, but that didn't happen. And but I did get some good video, and you can see him rambling around here. These bears are pretty big. I can see where it would be easy to confuse one of these bears in many sightings with confusing it with what some people like to call a Bigfoot. In the dusk, we see a lot of things that we think we see, and it all boils down to mostly perception, and perception is where we confuse a lot of things with something that we think they are as to what they really are. For instance, in the dark, many times things look a lot bigger because they may be closer than you think they are, and it will affect their sizes. But we're going to go into perception, not in this video, because perception takes a lot of time to discuss, because we have a lot of mental and visual acuity issues that need to be addressed to have a real serious discussion as to exactly what perception is and how it works. But today, like I said, I want to discuss mostly the historical aspects of Bigfoot and where he came from. Now, historically, like I said, Bigfoot has been referred to as the hairy man of the woods, and he's been confused with a lot of different creatures over the years. in latter years, the last couple of 100 years, the hairy man of the woods has been referred to as a bear, and not the bipedal creature that he appears to be. Prior to that, there were a lot of other animals throughout the years. Monkeys, baboons, orangutans, apes, gorillas, all those different creatures of the forest and the woods have been attributed to this creature and confused with this creature as to what they really are. However, through the years, the descriptions of this hairy man of the woods have remained pretty much the same. I'm not going to have enough time in this half hour to go over a couple of stories, but I will. So they actually originate from the mid to latter 1800s. They have a very accurate description of Bigfoot as relates to today's modern day sightings, and a lot of the historical sites I've read actually come pretty close to describing this creature as being more human-like in form than any other creature. And again, like I said, there's been a lot of different animals throughout the eons that have had a description attached to this creature that many people, well, for want of a better explanation, many people like to pass off as having actually belongs to various creatures, simply because they don't want to believe what the reality is. And the reality is that there are things out there that we don't know about. We don't know everything that there is to know, as much as we like to claim. And because of that, we look at many people that search or hunt for this Bigfoot creature as being something of a strange being. Maybe we have something wrong with our heads. We really don't, for the most part. I've met a few people who are definitely fall under that characteristic, but they can usually be spotted right off. But for the most part, what I'm going to do with these series of videos, the Hunt for Bigfoot, is describe the history of this creature, where the legend comes from, and many of the things that are attributed to that. And to do that, I'm going to go way, way back to the times of the pre-biblical times of the Old Testament, and we'll look at some of the names. One of the famous names that have been attributed to this Bigfoot is the satyr. In ancient days, the satyr has been attributed as being a half-man, half-beast, where the front of him looks like a animal, but the back half of him doesn't, or does rather. The front part looks like a man. And you see in these, this particular one, this image of Hercules fighting a lion. And we're going to get back to these images more in depth in a little bit here, but I just wanted to show you a brief outline. These are all images that date back from the Greco-Roman era, in the early hundreds BC and AD era. They're found from many places, and they have been carved into various structures and various buildings throughout Europe during the Dark Ages as churches were built. For instance, this one here that we'll get into. Like this one, this is a bowl. It shows the apes, what they claim to be apes. But if you really take a close look at those images, they're not very simian in nature. They're more human in nature. But in just a second, we're going to go back over those images and look at the history of where they come from and how they relate to our search for Bigfoot today. And it's become very difficult as the world becomes larger it actually becomes smaller. We run out of space. Um, but there are still a lot of places where we could go to hunt for clues for this. And hopefully by the end of these series, and like I said in my last episode, we could go on for hours and hours and hours discussing all of these things. But so far, a lot of what I've seen out there in the world of Bigfootery, or Bigfoot hunting, if you want to, whatever you want to call it, is pretty much counterproductive. A lot of the things that we're doing isn't going to allow us to find the secret behind this mystery. We're not going to get to the truth. And there are various reasons why I say consistently when they're out hunting, they have to really know what it is they're hunting. When a deer hunter goes out in the woods, he doesn't just grab his rifle or shotgun or bow, whatever he's using, and go tromping through the woods looking for a deer. Because the odds of you coming across a deer, if you do that, are slim to none. For many reasons, including their acute sense of hearing. Keeping on with this analogy, a hunter, if they're going after a specific prey, learns early on what that prey is, what they're all about, what they leave for signs, and how to track them. And this is some of the videos that I'm doing here are really going to be all about. Is we're going to discover what this creature really is, where it comes from, what kind of signs it leaves, and how to follow it, how to track it through the woods, how to find it in its own home. And again, to do that, we're going to go way, way back in history. This old phenomena, and I'm going to call it that for the time being, because in reality, there actually is no proof that there is a Bigfoot. There's a lot of different signs out there, like this one coming up on this log, where I found some scraping coming off the top, where something had apparently stepped over it and rubbed off the top of the bark. I don't think it was a deer. I think it's something else, but I don't know what it is. But again, there's a lot of different signs, but we need to go back into history and find out what this really is all about. And again, throughout the centuries, we find story after story after story that relate to what have been popularly referred to as the hairy man of the woods. And again, many of these sightings have been confused and mistaken for various other creatures, such as the what used to be known as the orang-utan from Borneo, various apes and monkeys and gorillas. But there are sufficient historical documentation to indicate that there actually has been a race of hairy men of the woods whose population have seriously diminished over the years. And we're going to take a look at some of the earlier images from this episode of what I have been come to be known as the satire. And we'll look at some early biblical references to these creatures as well, and discuss what they are, and why they're called what they are. But to get back to what the satire really is, we have to know where the definition, the terminology from this creature comes from. And before we do that, we have to look at why we look at these creatures and draw them. This is an image of Sagittarius on the left, and Savage Man from the. It's a image from a woodblock carving from the Arsenal Library in Paris, from I believe it was the early to mid 1500s time frame when this was done. I'm not exactly sure who the author was, but this is a mythological representation of two creatures. One of them is Sagittarius, and the other one is Savage Man. And who is Sagittarius? According to Wikipedia, The Babylonians identified Sagittarius as the god Nirigel or Nergal, which was a strange centaur-like creature firing an arrow from a bow. Over the years, come to equate the star systems with astrological symbols. Now, it's generally depicted with wings, sometimes with two heads, sometimes with one panther head and one human head, as well as occasionally a scorpion stinger raised above its more conventional horse's tail. The Sumerians named this of Pebilsag, meaning Pebil, meaning elder paternal kinsman, and Sag, meaning chief or head. The name can be translated as forefather or chief ancestor, again according to Wikipedia. And the figure that you're looking at here in color is reminiscent of many modern depictions of Sagittarius. But in Greek mythology, Sagittarius is described as a centaur, which is a half-human, half-horse. And in some legends, the centaur Chiron was the son of Philyra and Saturn, who was said to have changed himself into a horse to escape his jealous wife. Chiron was eventually immortalized in the constellation of Centaurus, or in some version of astrology, Sagittarius. We'll talk mythology here, but this is where the beginnings of that is. But you'll see in that image again, the first picture I showed you, that it's an image of Sagittarius and the wild man. And the wild man, of course, is on the right, and he's holding a spear or a stick. And some of the stories that I've read are that this Bigfoot creature that we know of today has been seen, indeed, carrying a stick or using a stick for various items. So this creature can use tools. We can equate this to the usage of tools by various simian species, such as chimpanzees, when they use a stick to stick into an anthill and pull ants out for a feed, or honey, or various other things. So this creature does have the ability to use tools, whatever it is, according to history. And we'll get into that a little bit more in another video. We're not going to have time this time, but we'll get into that in another one as to its tool-making abilities. But we'll look at now at this second image that I have of a creature called Pan. And this is a latter artist rendering of Pan, more from the 1800s. Pan was actually a creature that was also half man, half animal. And you look here that it's a very hairy creature covered with what can be likened to goat fur. And you'll notice that the feet are of the goat's feet. It also has horns, similar to what you might find in the goats, and it's playing the flute. But you'll see in all of these creatures that these wild men, or woodsmen, or savages, as they've been referred to over the years by human beings, are always wild men of the woods. They're mostly covered with hair in many frequent sightings and recollections of stories. But artistry throughout the eons have always acclimated these hairy men of the woods with being some sort of a wild creature in their imagery. They almost always have a tail, and frequently, as you can see in the images of the Sagittarius and Pan here, that they actually have attributes of animals to them, but the animal attributes are more humanistic than they are animalistic in form. For instance, you can see this Pan walking about on two legs. And we'll go back to another image of Hercules and a lion and compare that to a wild man of the wood again with this following picture. And here we're looking at a image of the god Hercules, and he's fighting a lion. But if you've ever seen a lion in the wild, you realize that this Hercules is substantially larger than the lion itself. And you also notice that there's a club in the image. Hercules is not holding onto the club, but it's there nonetheless. And one of the things I want to bring up at this point in time, and we've only got a few minutes left, so we're not going to have time to get into this discussion fully today, but one of the things we need to remember when we're looking at the folklore of this creature that we're searching for is that we have to remember that in the early days, all language was not written. Language was purely oral, and when writing did begin, writing actually started as images, and imagery was all important. When you draw a letter in the what we call the pre-literal era, which is before the time of written letters, everything that you drew symbolized something. So when you draw in those days, settings such as this, it's not necessarily purely art form in and of itself. It also portrays a message. But we get into the whole discussion revolving around these creatures of the wood, and we find that in those days they were called a savage man. And savage man, to determine or distinguish between what was considered to be civilized man and savage man, is that savage man frequently was portrayed as being half man, half animal. And through that portrayal, we see a lot of different images from many, many cultures across the world as it was growing that depicted these savage men as being more animalistic than humanistic, even though the animal form was displayed in a humanistic fashion. Hence the satire and the centaurs and these other creatures, Pan, for instance, as having been displayed as looking like humans, but have animal characteristics, such as Pan, with his goat fur and his horns and his cloven feet, as opposed to the toes. This really what this indicates, as far as historical folklore goes, is that these people were considered to be less than human, or maybe not less than human, but outside of the human realm, as having come from what we call the wilds or the savage land. So we see a lot of these imagery, and we can look here in the North American continent. Much has been made of the Salish nation mask of the wild woman of the woods, also known as Dzonkwa or Dzonaqua. There's a couple of different renditions of that, but if you look at that mask, and I'll show an image here, you can see that she has some what people like to refer to as having simian characteristics. With less than 5 minutes to go here, I'm not going to be able to delve into that very deeply. But there are some problems with trying to attribute simian characteristics to this mask, and in our next episode, we'll get into it a little bit more as to the etymology of the language behind that, where it's coming from, and what it's all about. But in the few minutes that I have left here, as you delve into the past and you look at all of these different historical sightings of what we now call Bigfoot and Sasquatch and Yeti and Yowie and other names today, you really have to remember that not everything is as we think it is today. You have to look at these stories in the light of when they came into being. And these stories again came into being before literacy was a common thing. Many of these nations, or rather legends, came into being prior to the age of what we call literacy, or before the written word. So we see a lot of imagery surrounding a lot of these things, and as time has passed, unless you spend time actually investigating, studying, and researching this imagery, you can come away from what you're looking at with a completely different view as to what these images actually portray. And as the years changed and our imaginations changed, these images also became something different than what they really were supposed to be in the beginning. And hence, we arrive at the conclusion that what the ancient peoples might have suggested as being ape-like probably wasn't. It's really more human than it is animalistic. And again, I'm running out of time here, so we'll get into that more deeply into the next half hour. And I hope you like these videos that I'm making, the Hunt for Bigfoot. I'm planning on at least a dozen of them, with a lot of different information that you haven't found anywhere else in the world of Bigfootery or Bigfoot hunting. And if you like them, click on the like button, and be sure to share these around. And again, this is a serious investigation into this, the legends and the folklore behind this creature. It's not necessarily a romp in the woods, and I'm not going to be showing any video of some of these huckster type videos that a lot of people will put up on YouTube, showing you blob squatches and sounds in the night and all kinds of other things that really have nothing to do with this legend that we're investigating here. And again, hope you like the videos, and come back for more here on the main Lone Ranger channel. And by the way, I will be migrating these videos to another platform very soon, so keep your eye out for them, and I'll let you know where I'll be going to when I have things all set up. And until then, enjoy and have a great day.